Some people believe the most dangerous thing in a mafia empire is a gun. They're wrong. The most dangerous thing is a woman who knows where the money disappeared. When Elena Vance uncovered $30 million that should never have existed, everyone expected the mafia boss to bury her in an unmarked grave. Instead, he slid a black velvet ring box across the table. "Marry me, or neither of us walks out alive." Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Vantage Financial Consulting. It was nearly midnight. Every light on the 23rd floor had gone dark except one. Elena Vance barely noticed. She sat alone at her desk, surrounded by coffee cups, highlighted ledgers, and spreadsheets that refused to make sense. She rubbed her tired eyes before looking back at the monitor. "No," she whispered. "That can't be right." She recalculated the numbers. Again, then again. The totals still didn't match. Money wasn't simply missing. Someone had made it disappear with extraordinary precision. Millions moved through shell companies, restaurants, real estate firms, import businesses, luxury hotels. Every transaction looked legitimate on the surface. Every signature matched. Every tax document passed inspection. Whoever designed the system understood accounting better than most certified auditors. Most people would have signed the report without another thought. Elena wasn't most people. She had spent her entire career finding lies hidden inside perfect numbers. Numbers never lied. People did. She opened another spreadsheet, cross-referenced wire transfers, compared timestamps, followed digital invoices across 3 continents. Then, she stopped. Her heartbeat slowed instead of speeding up. That only happened when she found something truly dangerous. $30 million. Gone. Not stolen. Redirected. Tiny amounts. Hundreds of transfers. Thousands of fake invoices. Invisible unless someone connected every company together. Someone inside this organization had been bleeding money for years. And whoever they were, they sat close to the top. Elena leaned back. "This isn't corporate fraud," she murmured. "This is organized." She reached for her phone, then hesitated. Calling her supervisor would trigger mandatory reporting. Mandatory reporting meant federal investigators. Federal investigators meant whoever owned these companies would know exactly who found the leak. Her office felt strangely quiet. Too quiet. The elevator dinged. She looked toward the hallway. Nobody should still be here. Soft footsteps echoed across polished marble. Not hurried. Not loud. Deliberate. She frowned. Security? No answer. The footsteps stopped outside her office. 3 slow knocks. She stood. "I'm sorry, we're closed." The door opened anyway. 3 men entered. Perfect black suits. No umbrellas despite the storm. No company badges. No expressions. The tallest one quietly closed the door behind him. Another unplugged her office phone. The third picked up her audit report. He skimmed 1 page. Then looked directly at her. "You work late." Elena remained calm. "I have deadlines." "So we noticed." Silence settled over the room. Her eyes moved from one man to another. No tattoos, military posture, professional. Not thieves, not police, something else. The tallest man finally spoke. "Miss Elena Vance." "Yes." "You found something that wasn't meant to be found." She didn't answer. He placed the report back onto her desk with surprising care. "You've done exceptional work." "Thank you." "It has created a complication. I only report numbers. The numbers belong to someone important." Elena folded her arms. "If there's a mistake, we can discuss it tomorrow with legal counsel." For the first time, one of the men smiled. It wasn't amusement. It was pity. "There won't be lawyers." She understood then. This wasn't a negotiation. She glanced toward the panic button beneath her desk. The tallest man noticed. "I wouldn't." She slowly withdrew her hand. "You planning to kill me?" "No." "You planning to threaten me?" "No." "Then why are you here?" He checked his watch. "To take you somewhere." "I decline. I'm afraid this isn't a request." For several seconds, nobody moved. Rain continued striking the glass. Finally, Elena reached for her coat. If I refuse, you won't. And if I do, you'll force us to become impolite. She sighed. I hate when people say things like that. The man blinked. Most people panicked. Most people begged. This woman sounded annoyed. She picked up her laptop. You don't need that. I never leave work unfinished. Where you're going, there are computers. She looked at him. I prefer mine. He paused, then nodded. As you wish. The black sedan rolled silently through Manhattan. No music, no conversation. Only windshield wipers cutting through heavy rain. Elena watched familiar streets disappear behind tinted windows. Nobody had blindfolded her. Interesting. That meant one of two things. Either she would never leave, or they weren't worried she'd remember the route. Neither possibility comforted her. The tallest man sat beside her, hands folded. Perfect posture. She finally asked, "Who do you work for?" He stared ahead. No one. She almost laughed. Everyone works for someone. So do you. True. And tonight, he said quietly, you'll meet the man everyone else works for. 37 minutes later, the gates opened. Steel, black. 12 feet high. Security cameras rotated silently. Armed guards stood beneath stone archways. The estate beyond looked less like a mansion and more like a private kingdom hidden from the rest of New York. Italian architecture, perfect gardens, ancient olive trees, fountains illuminated beneath soft golden lights. Beautiful and terrifying. The car stopped beneath a covered entrance. A butler opened her door. Not a word. Inside, everything was silent. No servants rushing. No music. No laughter. Just polished marble. Oil paintings. The faint scent of cedarwood. She noticed something unusual. No family photographs. Not one. A house this large should have memories. This one had only history. She was led down a long hallway. Double oak doors opened. The study beyond felt almost disappointingly ordinary. Bookshelves, fireplace, large desk, one lamp. A man stood beside the window with his back toward her. Broad shoulders, dark tailored suit, one hand resting inside his pocket, the other holding a crystal glass untouched. Without turning, he spoke. So, his voice was calm, deep, controlled. You found my missing $30 million. Elena realized immediately. This wasn't one of the employees. This wasn't an attorney. This wasn't a businessman. Without needing an introduction, she knew exactly who stood before her. Dante Moretti, the man newspapers called a billionaire investor. The man prosecutors could never convict. The man criminals whispered about, only after checking who might be listening. And then, for the first time, he slowly turned to face her. Dante Moretti did not look like the monster Elena had imagined. That surprised her. She expected someone colder, someone who looked like violence, someone whose presence alone would explain every rumor attached to his name. Instead, he looked like a man who had spent years learning how to hide everything. His face showed nothing. No anger, no curiosity, no arrogance, only control. The kind of control possessed by someone who had survived situations where losing it meant death. Elena stood still. She refused to look away first. Most people probably did. Most people probably lowered their eyes the moment they entered this room. She didn't. Dante noticed, and that was the first thing about her that interested him. Not her appearance, not her fear, the absence of it. You know who I am. It wasn't a question. Elena placed her laptop on the table. Yes. And yet you aren't afraid. I didn't say that. A faint silence followed. Dante turned slightly. Interesting answer. Fear and panic aren't the same thing. She looked around the room. You can be afraid and still think clearly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then one of the men standing near the door shifted uncomfortably, because nobody spoke to Dante Moretti like that. Not employees, not politicians, not even people who thought they were powerful. Dante walked toward his desk. Slowly, he placed his glass down. You know what happens to people who discover my secrets? Elena looked at him. Usually? Yes. They disappear. The honesty of her answer almost made the room change. Almost. Most people would deny knowing. Most people would pretend ignorance. Elena simply said the truth. Dante sat down. Then why did you keep investigating? She glanced at the report. Because it was my job. That's all? That's enough. He studied her. You found $30 million hidden across 17 companies. Yes. You traced transactions nobody else noticed. Yes. You knew reporting it could put you in danger. Yes. And you still continued. Elena crossed her arms. You're repeating yourself. One of the guards immediately looked at her, almost like he expected Dante to react. He didn't. Instead, something unusual happened. Dante Moretti became curious. You aren't asking the obvious question. Which one? Why you're still alive? Elena looked at him. Because you need something from me. The room went silent. Dante's expression changed slightly. Barely. But Elena noticed. She was trained to notice small things. A pause. A movement. A hesitation. Those were where people revealed themselves. You already know. I can guess. Tell me. She walked closer to the desk. The money wasn't stolen from you. Dante said nothing. It was stolen from inside your organization. Silence. The person who did this had access. She tapped the report. They didn't need to break into anything. They were trusted. A colder atmosphere filled the room. And? Elena looked directly at him. You don't want the money back. A pause. You want the person. For the first time, Dante looked genuinely impressed. Not much, but enough. You understand quickly. I understand numbers. No. His voice lowered. You understand people. That sentence stayed between them. Because Elena knew something. Men like Dante Moretti didn't give compliments. Not real ones. Not easily. So what happens now? Dante leaned back. Now you help me find the traitor. And if I refuse? You won't. Elena almost smiled. You really like saying that. Because I'm usually right. That must be exhausting. A strange silence followed. Then, something unexpected. Dante smiled. Not fully, not warmly, just for a second. A tiny crack in a perfectly controlled mask. Elena noticed. And that bothered her more than his threats. Because it reminded her there was a person underneath. A dangerous one, but still a person. 3 hours later, Elena sat inside the Moretti Estate Library, surrounded by thousands of books, and 3 armed guards outside the door. She wasn't a prisoner. That was what they wanted her to believe. But she knew better. A cage made of gold was still a cage. Her laptop was connected to a secure network. Dante had given her access to every financial record connected to his empire, something no outsider had ever received. Which meant one thing. He either trusted her, or he was certain she couldn't betray him. Neither option was comforting. She opened the files. Immediately, she noticed something strange. The missing money wasn't random. Everyone assumed the theft was about greed. They were wrong. The transfers weren't designed to steal. They were designed to hide something. Elena frowned. She opened another folder. Then another. Her fingers stopped. No. A pattern appeared. Something she had never seen before. The person moving the money wasn't trying to escape. They were preparing. Preparing for something much bigger. Footsteps approached. She didn't look up. You're late. The door opened. Dante Moretti entered. Behind him, his security team stopped. Nobody expected those words from her. Dante raised an eyebrow. Excuse me? Elena continued typing. I found something. What? She turned the screen toward him. The $30 million wasn't the real problem. Dante walked closer. What are you saying? She pointed at the transactions. The money was a distraction. His expression hardened. Explain. Someone wanted you to discover the missing money. The room became silent. Why? Elena looked at him. Because while everyone was looking at the money, they were moving something else. Dante stared at the screen. What? Elena swallowed. For the first time that night, she looked uncertain. Because the numbers revealed something even she didn't expect. Your security system. Dante's eyes narrowed. What about it? The person who stole from you. She slowly closed the laptop. Wasn't trying to take money from your empire. A pause. They were mapping it. Nobody moved. Dante's voice became colder. Who? Elena looked toward him. I don't know. Find out. I will. And Elena? She stopped. Dante looked at her. For the first time, his voice wasn't threatening. It was a warning. From this moment, whoever did this knows you exist. The lights outside flashed as thunder shook the mansion. Elena stared at him. And what does that mean? Dante stepped closer. It means, the most dangerous thing you did tonight wasn't finding my money. A pause. It was proving you were smarter than the person who stole it. For the first time in years, Dante Moretti felt uncertain. Not because of an enemy, not because of a weapon pointed at him, not because someone had betrayed his empire. Those things were familiar. Betrayal was expected. Violence was predictable. People always revealed who they truly were when money and power were involved. But Elena Vance, she was different. She had walked into his house, sat across from the most feared man in New York, discovered a secret that could destroy his organization. And somehow, the thing that concerned her the most was still the numbers. Not him, not his reputation, not the armed men outside the door. The numbers. Dante stood in silence, watching her. Most people tried to impress him. They lied. They exaggerated. They begged. Elena did none of those things. She simply solved problems. And that made her dangerous. You're staring. Elena's voice broke the silence. Dante looked away from the window. You noticed. I'm an auditor. And that explains everything? People reveal more when they think nobody is watching. A faint pause. Dante walked toward the desk. You analyze everyone? Usually? Me too? Especially you. The answer was immediate. No hesitation. No fear. Dante studied her carefully. You understand that most people would never say that to me. Most people probably don't spend their careers looking for hidden information. Most people also value their lives. Elena closed the file in front of her. I value mine. Then why do you keep challenging me? She looked at him. Because if you wanted me dead, a pause, you wouldn't still be asking questions. For a moment, Dante had no answer. That was rare. Very rare. The next morning, Elena woke up in the Moretti estate. For several seconds, she forgot where she was. Then she saw the security cameras, the armed guards, the unfamiliar room. And everything returned. She wasn't at home. She wasn't at her office. She was inside the world she had spent years avoiding. The world where numbers disappeared because people disappeared first. A knock came at the door. A woman entered carrying breakfast. Miss Vance? Elena looked up. Yes? I'm Sophia. I'm responsible for the household. Elena nodded. Thank you. Sophia placed the tray down, then hesitated. Can I ask you something? Depends. How are you so calm? Elena looked confused. About what? Sophia almost smiled. About him. Elena understood immediately. Dante? The woman's expression changed. People rarely said his name casually. Everyone who enters this house is afraid. Elena looked toward the window. Rain covered the city below. I am afraid. Sophia seemed surprised. You are? Of course. Then why don't you act like it? Elena thought for a moment. Because fear doesn't disappear when you panic. She picked up her coffee. It only becomes harder to control. Sophia stared at her, then quietly left. At the same time, 3 floors below, Dante sat in a private meeting room. 7 of his closest men surrounded the table. Everyone was silent. A large screen displayed financial records. The same records Elena had analyzed. One man finally spoke. "Boss, with respect." Dante looked up. "Continue. We shouldn't trust her." Nobody moved. "She appeared at the exact moment we discovered the leak." Another man nodded. "She could be working with whoever did this." Dante's expression remained cold. "Could she?" The room went quiet. The man hesitated. "We don't know." "Exactly." Dante tapped the table. "You don't know." His eyes moved across every person in the room. "But she found what all of you missed." Nobody spoke. That silence said enough. Dante noticed, and he hated it, because Elena Vance had been in his world less than 12 hours, and she had already exposed weaknesses inside it. Later that afternoon, Elena entered Dante's office carrying a folder. "I found another pattern." Dante looked up. "Already? Your security team changed access codes 3 times in 6 months." "So?" "Every change happened 2 days before money was moved." Dante stood. "Meaning, someone knew your security schedule." His face hardened. "Only senior members know that." "Exactly." Silence. Elena placed the folder down. "The person you're looking for isn't outside your organization." Dante stared at the information. "They're inside." "Yes." A dangerous calm filled the room. Dante had dealt with enemies before, but enemies were simple. You could see them. You could prepare for them. A traitor was different. A traitor knew where you slept, where you were vulnerable, who you loved, if you loved anyone. Dante's expression darkened. Elena noticed. "You already suspect someone." "No." The answer came too quickly. She looked at him. "You do." Dante said nothing, which was an answer itself. "Who?" "No." Elena frowned. "No? You don't need to know." She stared at him. "That's a terrible strategy." His eyes moved toward her. "Excuse me? If I don't know who we are protecting against, I can't find evidence." "You'll do your job. My job requires information. This isn't a negotiation." Elena leaned forward. "No." Her voice remained calm. "It's not." A pause. "It's the reason you keep losing." The room froze. Dante looked at her. Nobody talked to him like this. Nobody. "You think I'm losing? I think you're powerful." She looked directly at him. "But powerful people make one mistake." "What mistake?" "They believe everyone around them is loyal because they're afraid." For the first time, Dante had no immediate response. Because somewhere deep inside, he knew she was right. That night, Elena returned to the library. She needed silence. Numbers were easier than people. Numbers didn't pretend. Numbers didn't smile while planning betrayal. She opened the files again. Then she noticed something. A small inconsistency. So small, most people would ignore it. A timestamp. A deleted transaction. A hidden account. Her eyes widened. No. She zoomed in. The account wasn't connected to a company. It wasn't connected to a restaurant. It wasn't connected to any business. It was connected to a person. Someone whose name she recognized. Someone who had been standing inside the Moretti estate all day. Someone close enough to Dante to destroy him. Before she could continue, the lights went out. The entire library fell into darkness. Elena froze. A second later, the emergency system activated. Red lights flashed. Footsteps echoed outside. Fast. Urgent. A man's voice shouted from the hallway. "Secure the house!" Elena slowly stood. Her laptop screen was still glowing. And on it was the name of the traitor. The door handle moved. Someone was trying to enter. Then, Dante's voice came from the other side. "Elena." She looked toward the door. For the first time, his voice didn't sound like a mafia boss. It sounded like someone who was genuinely concerned. "Open the door." A pause. "Now." The door opened before Elena could reach it. Dante Moretti entered first, not with the calm confidence he always carried, not with the controlled expression of a man who feared nothing. This time, he looked ready for war. Two armed guards followed behind him. Their weapons were lowered, but their hands never left them. Elena noticed immediately. Something serious had happened. What happened? Dante looked at the glowing laptop screen, then at her. You tell me. She stepped aside. I found something. He walked toward the desk. On the screen was a single name. A person Elena had seen several times since arriving at the estate. A person who moved freely through the house. A person everyone trusted. Dante stared at the name, and for the first time, Elena saw something break through his perfect control. Not anger, not shock, something worse. Disappointment. You know him. Dante didn't answer. Elena watched his face carefully. You do. A long silence. Then finally, yes. The word was quiet, but heavy. Who is he? Dante looked away from the screen. Marco Bellini. Elena waited. The name meant nothing to her, but the reaction around them told her everything. The guards exchanged uncomfortable looks. Someone important. Someone close. How close? Dante didn't respond immediately. Then, 20 years. The room became silent. Elena understood. This wasn't just a business betrayal. This was personal. He was there before the empire existed. Dante's voice remained calm. Before the companies. Before the money. Before people knew my name. He looked at the screen. Marco was one of the few people I trusted. Elena studied him. And now you think he betrayed you. I don't think. His eyes hardened. I know. The security alarm continued throughout the mansion. Men moved through hallways. Doors were locked. Phones were checked. Everyone was searching. But Elena noticed something. Nobody was looking at the right thing. Dante. He turned. What? The alarm. What about it? It started after I found the account. Yes. That's not a coincidence. His expression changed. Explain. She pointed toward the security panel. Whoever triggered this didn't want to attack the house. Dante walked closer. They wanted us to know they were here. Exactly. A pause. They wanted fear. Elena looked at him. Fear makes people careless. Dante stared at her. You're saying this was a distraction? Yes. From what? She looked around. Then slowly, toward him. From finding out what they already took. 3 minutes later, the entire security team gathered in the main operations room. Dante stood in the center. Everyone waited. Nobody spoke unless spoken to. The screens displayed every camera inside and outside the property. Then Elena noticed something. A camera feed. A hallway. A blind spot. She stepped closer. Stop. The technician froze the footage. Dante looked at her. What? Go back 30 seconds. The video rewound. A figure appeared. Walking through the west corridor. Not rushing. Not hiding. Almost like they wanted to be seen. Elena leaned closer. Zoom in. The image became clearer. A man in a black suit, holding something small. Dante's expression changed. What is that? Elena stared. A device. What kind? She shook her head. Not sure. Then she noticed something else. The person's left hand. A ring. A symbol. Her eyes narrowed. That's not Marco. Everyone looked at her. Dante stepped forward. How do you know? Because whoever this is, she pointed at the screen, is trying to make you blame him. Silence. Dante looked at the image again. And Elena saw something. A realization. The traitor wasn't acting alone. Later that night, the estate became quieter. Too quiet. The guards remained everywhere. But the panic disappeared. Because Dante Moretti had done something nobody expected. He listened to Elena, and that bothered his men more than the attack. In his private office, Dante stood by the window. Elena sat across from him. You should sleep. She looked up. You too. I don't sleep much. That explains the personality. A brief silence. Then, Dante almost smiled. Almost. You always talk like this? Like what? Like you're not speaking to someone dangerous. Elena looked at him. You are dangerous. Then why? Because pretending you aren't won't make you less dangerous. Dante watched her. Most people try to convince themselves I'm not human. And are you? The question surprised him. Nobody asked Dante Moretti that. Not seriously. After a moment, he answered. Sometimes. Elena looked away. A strange silence followed. Not uncomfortable. Just unfamiliar. Then, a phone rang. Dante's expression changed instantly. He picked it up, listened, said nothing, then ended the call. Elena noticed. Something happened. Yes. What? Dante looked at her. The person who attacked the house. A pause. Wasn't trying to steal from me. Elena waited. They were trying to reach you. Her expression changed. Me? Dante nodded. Someone knew you found the information. How? Silence. Then Dante said the one thing she didn't want to hear. Because someone inside this house told them. The room went cold. Elena slowly stood. So now I'm the target. Yes. And what happens now? Dante looked at her. The answer came immediately. You stay here. No. His eyes narrowed. Elena. I said no. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. She stepped closer. You brought me here because you needed my help. A pause. But now, I'm a problem. Dante's expression hardened. You're wrong. Am I? For several seconds, he said nothing. Then quietly, no. Elena looked surprised. Dante continued. You are the only reason we know there's an enemy inside. A pause. Which means, his voice became colder. Nobody touches you. The words sounded less like protection and more like a promise. At that exact moment, somewhere across New York, a man watched security footage from a dark room. On the screen was Elena Vance. He smiled. So, he whispered. Dante finally found someone worth protecting. He picked up his phone. Execute the next step. A pause. And make sure the accountant doesn't survive long enough to discover the truth. Dante Moretti had spent 20 years building walls. Walls around his empire. Walls around his emotions. Walls around the parts of himself that nobody was allowed to see. And yet, somehow, in less than 48 hours, Elena Vance had walked through the first one. Not because she tried, not because she wanted to, but because she noticed things other people ignored. The pauses, the silence, the details, the cracks. That was what made her dangerous. The next morning, Elena woke up to a different atmosphere inside the Moretti estate. The house was still quiet, still elegant, still intimidating. But something had changed. The guards no longer watched her like a possible threat. They watched her like someone important. And Elena hated that. Importance in Dante Moretti's world usually came with a price. She walked into the dining room. Dante was already there. A black suit, a cup of untouched coffee, several documents beside him. He looked exactly like the man everyone feared. Cold, controlled, untouchable. Except, there was something different. He looked tired, not physically. Something deeper. You didn't sleep. Elena sat down. Dante looked at her. You noticed. You look like someone who spent the entire night planning revenge. I was planning solutions. Same thing with a different name. A brief silence. Then Dante looked back at the documents. You should leave. Elena paused. Excuse me? You heard me. After everything? Especially after everything. She studied him. Why? Because this is no longer about money. Dante's voice became colder. The person behind this wants to destroy my organization. A pause. And anyone close to me becomes a target. Elena looked at him. You're trying to protect me. No. The answer came too quickly. I am removing a weakness. Interesting. Elena almost smiled. You really believe that sounds less personal? Dante didn't respond, which told her enough. Later that afternoon, Elena was working in the library again. But this time, something bothered her. She wasn't looking at financial records. She was looking at Dante Moretti. Not directly. Through the information around him. Every empire had a pattern. Every powerful person left traces. She opened old company records, news articles, business reports, historical documents. Then she found something strange. 20 years ago, Dante Moretti didn't exist. Not publicly. No billionaire, no investor, no empire, only rumors, small mentions, a young man connected to violence, a survivor, someone who disappeared from the public eye. Then suddenly, a decade later, he appeared as one of New York's most successful businessmen. Elena frowned. Who were you before everyone knew your name? The answer came unexpectedly. Not from Dante, from his oldest employee, a man named Luca. He found her in the library. You search too much. Elena looked up. That's usually how people find answers. Luca almost smiled. You remind me of him. Who? Dante. That surprised her. Me? Yes. Elena laughed quietly. That might be the strangest thing anyone has ever said. Luca walked toward the bookshelf. He was like you once. Curious? No. He looked at her. Alone. The words stayed in the room. Elena became quiet. What happened? Luca looked toward the hallway, making sure nobody was listening. Dante wasn't born powerful. I assumed. He lost everything before he built anything. Elena waited. His family was betrayed. By who? Luca hesitated. People they trusted. That explained more than Elena expected. The same reason he doesn't trust anyone now. Luca nodded. Exactly. That evening, Dante found Elena standing outside in the garden. Rain had stopped. The city lights reflected on wet stone. You shouldn't be here. She turned. You say that a lot, because you don't listen. Neither do you. For a moment, they simply stood there. Two people who were completely different. And somehow understood each other. Dante looked at her. What did Luca tell you? Elena didn't pretend. About your family. His expression changed. Only slightly. But she saw it. I'm sorry. Dante looked away. I don't need sympathy. I didn't give you any. That made him look back. I said I'm sorry, because losing people hurts. A pause. Not because I think you're weak. For several seconds, Dante said nothing. Because that was the first time someone acknowledged his pain, without treating him like a broken man. You know what your problem is? Elena asked. Dante raised an eyebrow. Do I want to know? You think being alone makes you stronger. And? It doesn't. The wind moved through the garden. It just means nobody can help you when you fall. Dante stared at her. Nobody said things like that. Nobody dared. You always talk to people this way. Only when they're wrong. A strange silence. Then, Dante laughed. Quietly. Barely. But he laughed. Elena froze. Because she realized something. She had never seen him do that. Not once. The man everyone called a monster was capable of something human. And Dante noticed her reaction. What? Nothing. You looked surprised. I was. Why? Because I didn't think you knew how. A small smile appeared. Gone almost instantly. But it was there. Then. The sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. Both of them turned. A guard ran toward them. Boss! Dante's entire expression changed. The warmth disappeared. The Mafia Boss returned. What happened? The guard held a small envelope. It was found inside the house. Dante took it. His eyes narrowed. Elena watched him open it. Inside was a single photograph. Old. Faded. A picture of a young Dante, standing beside a woman, his mother. On the back, 3 words were written. 3 words that changed everything. Ask Elena Vance. The garden became silent. Dante slowly looked at her. For the first time, not as an accountant, not as a tool, not as someone who could solve his problems, but as someone connected to a secret from his past. Elena's face went pale, because she realized something. The person hunting Dante wasn't only connected to his empire. They knew her too. The photograph remained between them, a small piece of paper, a forgotten moment from 20 years ago. Yet somehow, it carried more weight than any weapon in the room. Dante Moretti stared at it. Not like a businessman examining evidence, not like a mafia boss searching for an enemy, but like a man who had just been forced to open a door he had spent decades keeping locked. Elena noticed, and for the first time, she saw something she never expected to see. Dante Moretti was afraid, not of death, not of betrayal, not of losing power. He was afraid of remembering. "Where did you find this?" His voice was quiet. The guard standing nearby immediately answered. "Inside the west hallway." "Security?" "We checked every camera." "And?" The guard hesitated. "Nobody entered." Dante's eyes became colder. "Nobody?" "No, sir." Elena looked at the photograph again. Then someone didn't enter. Everyone looked at her. They were already inside. Silence. Dante turned toward her. "Explain." She picked up the picture carefully. "The person who left this didn't break into your house." She pointed toward the edges. "No fingerprints. No damage. It was placed somewhere they knew nobody would immediately notice." Dante watched her. So whoever did this has access." A pause. "Or they know your security better than your security team." The room became tense, because that possibility was worse. Dante dismissed everyone. Soon, only he and Elena remained. The photograph sat on the desk between them. "You know something." Elena looked at him. "No, you're lying." She frowned. "I'm an accountant, not a criminal. You're also someone who notices everything." A pause. Dante leaned back. "You reacted when you saw the picture." Elena stayed quiet, because he was right. She had reacted, not because she knew Dante, but because she knew the woman beside him. Dante noticed. "Who is she?" Elena looked at the photograph. "I don't know her name." "Then why did you react?" She hesitated. For the first time since entering the Moretti estate, Elena wasn't immediately confident. "I've seen this photo before." Dante became still. "Where?" "Years ago." "Where?" Elena looked at him. "At a crime scene." The air changed. 20 years earlier. Before Elena became one of New York's most respected financial investigators, she was just a teenager. Her father worked in property restoration, cleaning damaged buildings, repairing places after fires. Accidents. Violence. Sometimes, things nobody wanted to talk about. After he died, Elena inherited his small restoration business. She remembered one location clearly, an abandoned warehouse. A place where something terrible had happened. She had been young. She remembered the smell of smoke, broken glass, blood on the floor, and among the ruins, a small photograph. A woman smiling, a young man standing beside her. The only thing untouched among the destruction. She didn't know who they were. She only knew one thing. Someone had lost something important. So she placed the photo somewhere safe, returned it to the police evidence office, never thought about it again, until now. Dante listened without interrupting. When she finished, he remained silent, too silent. "You returned it." Elena looked confused. "What?" "My mother's photograph." A pause. "That was you?" Neither of them spoke. Because suddenly, the impossible became possible. Years ago, when Dante was at his weakest, when his entire world collapsed, when everyone around him was taking advantage of his family's death, one person had quietly protected the last memory of his mother, and she had no idea who he was. You didn't know whose it was. No. You didn't know me. No. You gained nothing. Elena shook her head. No. Dante looked down. For a moment, the Mafia boss disappeared. Only a son remained. Why? Elena looked at him. Why what? Why did you return it? She seemed surprised by the question. Because it belonged to someone. Dante stared. That's all? Yes. A pause. You make it sound complicated. For years, Dante had searched for the person who returned that photograph. Not because of the picture itself, because of what it represented. At a time when everyone wanted something from him, one stranger gave something back, without asking, without expecting anything. And now, that stranger was sitting in front of him. That night, Dante couldn't sleep. He stood alone in his office, the photograph in his hand. 20 years. 20 years searching for a person he thought he would never find. And now she was here, not as someone from his past, but as someone who had unknowingly walked back into his life. A knock interrupted him. Come in. Elena entered. You haven't slept. Dante looked at her. You noticed. Yes. Why are you here? She placed a folder on his desk. I found another connection. Immediately, the businessman returned. What connection? The accounts. She opened the file. The person moving the money wasn't only studying your empire. She pointed at the documents. They were studying your history. Dante frowned. What does that mean? The fake companies, the transfers, the security changes. She looked at him. Everything connects back to events from 20 years ago. Dante became completely still. What events? Elena hesitated. The night your family was attacked. The silence was heavy. Dante's jaw tightened. Impossible. Why? Because everyone involved died. Elena looked at him. Then someone is pretending to be dead. Before Dante could answer, every screen in the office suddenly turned on. The security monitors, the computers, the television, all displaying the same image. A black screen. Then, a message appeared. You found the girl who returned the memory. Elena froze. Dante stepped forward. Another line appeared. Now watch her take it away again. Then, the screen changed. A live camera feed appeared. A man standing outside the estate gates, holding a gun. And beside him, someone Elena recognized, someone she never expected to see. Dante's oldest friend, Marco Bellini. Alive. Dante stared at the screen. Impossible. Marco looked directly into the camera and smiled. Then he spoke. Hello, Dante. A pause. I think it's time you learned the truth about your mother. The screen went black. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. The entire Moretti estate stood frozen. Not because of the threat, not because of the man on the screen, but because of one impossible truth. Marco Bellini was alive. And Dante Moretti, the man who had built an empire on knowing everything, had been deceived. The security room exploded into movement. Guards rushed toward stations. Phones rang. Commands were shouted. Weapons were checked. But Dante didn't move. He simply stared at the black screen. His face was unreadable. Too unreadable. Elena had learned something about him. The calmer Dante became, the more dangerous he was. Dante. No response. Dante. This time, his eyes shifted toward her. Find Marco. The command was quiet, but everyone in the room heard it. Alive. A pause. Do not shoot him. Several guards looked surprised. Luca, standing nearby, frowned. Boss? Dante looked at him. I said alive. Nobody questioned him again. Minutes later, the estate became a fortress. Every entrance was sealed. Every road around the property was monitored. Every person inside was investigated. Except one. Elena noticed. You're not checking everyone. Dante looked at the security reports. What? Your people. He looked at her. You trust them? No. The answer surprised her. Then why? Because if I start assuming everyone is a traitor, he paused. I become exactly what they want. Elena studied him. For someone who controlled an entire criminal empire, that was a surprisingly human answer. You still believe in loyalty? Dante looked away. I believe betrayal hurts, because loyalty exists. The sentence stayed with her, because it revealed something. The man everyone called ruthless still wanted to believe in something. An hour later, they found the location, a warehouse, 30 miles outside Manhattan. The same warehouse connected to the old attack on Dante's family. Elena looked at the map. You're going. Dante didn't answer. You are. He put on his coat. Yes. I'm coming. No. The answer was immediate. Elena crossed her arms. That's not your decision. Dante stopped. Excuse me? You need me. No. Yes. She pointed toward the map. Marco didn't reveal himself to hurt you. A pause. He revealed himself because he wanted you to come. Dante's expression darkened. And he knows something about your past. Silence. If you go there alone, you won't be thinking clearly. The room became quiet, because nobody had ever said that to Dante Moretti. Not even his closest people. You think I can't control myself? I think you're human. Those words hit harder than she expected, because Dante Moretti hated being reminded of that. The drive to the warehouse was silent. Rain covered the city again, just like the night they first met. Except now, Elena was sitting beside him willingly. Dante noticed. You should be afraid. I am. Then why stay? She looked out the window. Because someone needs to make sure you don't do something stupid. For a moment, Dante looked at her. Then away. You insult me often. You survive it. A tiny smile appeared. Again. Only for a second. But Elena saw it. The warehouse was abandoned. Old. Broken. A place forgotten by the world. But not by Dante. The moment he stepped inside, he changed. His eyes moved across the room. Every memory returned. The fire. The blood. The night, everything disappeared. Elena watched him carefully. This wasn't the Mafia Boss. This was a son standing inside the place where his childhood ended. Then, a voice echoed. I wondered when you'd come back. Marco Bellini stepped from the shadows. Older. Different. But alive. Dante stopped. 20 years of memories stood in front of him. Marco. The name carried more pain than anger. Marco smiled sadly. You still say my name like you trusted me. Dante's expression hardened. You died. No. Marco looked around the warehouse. I disappeared. Why? Marco laughed quietly. Because your father was never the hero you believed he was. The room became cold. Dante took a step forward. Choose your next words carefully. Marco ignored the warning. Your father built his empire on betrayal. Your mother discovered it. Dante froze. What? Marco looked at Elena, then back at Dante. She wasn't killed by enemies. A pause. She was killed because she found out the truth. Dante's face changed. Impossible. You're lying. I wish I was. Marco stepped closer. Your father ordered it. Silence. Even the rain outside seemed to stop. Elena watched Dante. She expected anger, a violent reaction, something explosive. Instead, nothing. That was worse. Why tell me now? Dante's voice was barely audible. Marco looked at him. Because the person who destroyed your family is still alive. A pause. And they are closer than you think. Dante's eyes narrowed. Who? Marco looked toward Elena. Her heart stopped. No. Marco smiled. The person who has been controlling everything is the one person you would never suspect. The warehouse lights suddenly turned off. Gunshots exploded. Elena felt Dante grab her arm, pulling her down. Glass shattered above them. People screamed. Chaos filled the warehouse. Dante covered her with his body, not thinking, not calculating, just reacting. For the first time, he protected someone without considering the cost. When the shooting stopped, silence returned. Dante slowly stood, His suit was torn. A small cut appeared near his shoulder. Elena looked at him. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "It is." He ignored it. Instead, he looked around. Marco was gone, but something remained on the floor. A small envelope. Elena picked it up. Inside was a document. One page, one name, and a date. Dante looked over her shoulder. Then his entire expression changed, because the name written there was impossible. Elena whispered, "Who is this?" Dante didn't answer, because he knew. He had known this person his entire life. The person who betrayed him was not an enemy. It was family. The name on the paper felt heavier than any weapon Dante had ever held. He had faced enemies with armies, men who wanted his money, men who wanted his territory, men who wanted his death. But this was different, because the name written on that page belonged to someone who had stood beside him for years, someone who had earned his trust, someone who had watched him build everything, someone who knew exactly where to hurt him. Elena looked at Dante. She had never seen him like this. Not angry, not afraid, empty. "Dante?" He didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the paper. The handwriting, the date, the evidence. Everything connected. 20 years of unanswered questions suddenly had a shape, and he hated it. Because the truth was worse than not knowing. "Who is it?" Elena asked quietly. Dante folded the paper. "Someone who shouldn't be possible." "That doesn't answer my question." He looked at her. For a second, she saw the conflict inside him. The mafia boss wanted silence. The man wanted the truth. Finally, he said, "My uncle." The words were almost a whisper. Elena froze. "Your uncle?" Adrian Moretti. The name meant nothing to her, but the reaction of Luca and the guards who had followed them told her everything. Nobody expected that answer. Back at the estate, the atmosphere had changed. No one spoke loudly. No one joked. No one relaxed, because everyone understood. The enemy wasn't outside. The enemy had always been inside. Dante sat in his office, the same place where Elena first met him. But now, it felt different. The room that once represented power, now represented memories. Elena placed the document on the desk. "You knew something was wrong with your uncle?" Dante stared at the fireplace. "I suspected, but you didn't believe it." "No." "Why?" A long silence. Then, "Because he was the last person my father trusted." Elena understood. Family wasn't just blood. Sometimes, family was the last thing people questioned. "After my parents died," Dante continued, "Adrian helped me survive. He taught me everything. Business, strategy, how to protect myself." His jaw tightened. "He was the reason I became who I am." Elena looked at him. "And now?" Dante looked at the fire. "Now I wonder if everything I became was exactly what he wanted." That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Too many questions. Too many connections. The money. The fake companies. The security breaches. Her own involvement. Something still didn't make sense. She returned to the library, opened every file again. If someone was controlling this, there had to be a pattern. There always was. Hours passed. Then, she found it. A transaction. A company. A name. Her hands stopped. No. She checked again. Then again. Impossible. The fake companies weren't just connected to Dante. They were connected to her. The next morning, Dante found her waiting outside his office. "You look like you found something." "I did." He noticed her expression. "What happened?" She handed him the folder. Dante opened it. His eyes moved through the documents, then stopped. "What is this?" "The reason I was chosen." Silence. Elena pointed at the records. 20 years ago, shortly after your family's attack, one of your father's companies transferred money to a small restoration business. Dante frowned. "What restoration business?" Elena looked at him. "My father's." The room went completely silent. Dante stared at her. Your father worked for my family? Not exactly. She shook her head. He repaired damaged properties. After fires. After accidents. After crimes. A pause. But one location stayed in his records. The warehouse. Dante's expression changed. The night my family was attacked. Elena nodded. My father was one of the first people there afterward. Dante stood. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't know. She looked at him. Until now. The two of them stood silently. For the first time, they weren't connected by money. Or danger. Or necessity. They were connected by the past. A past neither of them knew existed. Dante walked toward the window. All this time, he stopped. The person who returned my mother's photograph was the daughter of the man who helped cover the aftermath. Elena looked down. Maybe. No. Dante turned. His voice was certain. Not maybe. A pause. Everything connects to you. The words should have scared her, but they didn't. Because she saw something else. Dante wasn't accusing her. He was trying to understand. Then, the office door opened. Luca rushed in. Boss? Dante immediately turned. What? We found Adrian. The room became silent. Where? Luca hesitated. He contacted us. Dante's expression hardened. Put him on. The screen activated. An older man appeared. Silver hair, calm eyes, a familiar face. Adrian Moretti. Dante stared. 20 years of anger. 20 years of questions. 20 years of pain. Finally had a face. Hello, Dante. The voice was calm, almost gentle. Dante stepped closer. Why? Adrian smiled sadly. That's the first question you ask? What did you do? A pause. Then Adrian looked at Elena and smiled. Not at Dante, at her. You finally found her. Elena felt cold. Dante noticed. Dante noticed. What do you mean? Adrian leaned closer to the camera. Your father spent years protecting a secret. A pause. And Elena Vance is the only person who can prove what really happened that night. Dante's expression changed. What secret? Adrian smiled. The secret your mother died trying to reveal. The screen flickered. Then, before disappearing, Adrian said one final sentence. Ask Elena's father what he saw in that warehouse. The call ended. Nobody spoke. Because suddenly, the woman Dante had brought into his world to solve a financial crime might be the only person who could uncover the truth behind his family's destruction. And Dante realized something terrifying. He had spent years protecting his empire, but the person who could destroy it had been standing right beside him. The message disappeared, but the words remained. Your father did. 3 simple words. Yet they destroyed everything Dante Moretti believed about his own life. For 20 years, he had built his entire existence around one belief. His family was destroyed by enemies. His mother was a victim. His father was a victim. And Adrian was the man who betrayed them. But now, everything had changed. Because the truth was no longer a straight line. It was a maze. And somewhere inside that maze, someone had been controlling the story. Dante stood alone in his office. The photograph of his family remained on the desk. His mother's smile, his younger self, his father standing beside them. A perfect family, a perfect lie. Elena watched him from the doorway. She didn't speak. For once, she understood silence was necessary. Dante had spent his entire life becoming someone who couldn't be hurt. But tonight, the armor had cracked. Do you hate him? Elena finally asked. Dante didn't turn. My father? Yes. A long pause. I don't know. That answer surprised her. After everything? Dante looked at the photograph. I spent 20 years hating people I thought destroyed my family. His voice became quieter. What happens when the person you hated wasn't the real enemy? Elena didn't answer. Because she knew. Sometimes the truth didn't bring peace. Sometimes it only created new pain. An hour later, Luca entered the office. Boss. Dante turned. What did you find? Luca placed several old documents on the desk. We searched every archive connected to your father. And? Something was hidden. Elena stepped closer. What? Luca opened the file. Your father owned a private account. Dante frowned. Impossible. Why? Because my father hated hiding money. Luca looked uncomfortable. He wasn't hiding money. A pause. He was hiding someone. The room became silent. The documents revealed a series of payments, small amounts, sent every month, for years, to the same person, a woman, not connected to the Moretti family, not connected to any business. Elena studied the records. Who is she? Luca shook his head. We don't know. Dante stared at the name, then froze, because he recognized it. Impossible. Elena looked at him. Who? Dante didn't answer immediately. Then, my mother's sister. Silence. Your aunt? Dante nodded. But she died before I was born. Luca looked at the documents. Apparently, someone wanted everyone to believe that. For the first time, Elena saw the entire picture. This wasn't simply about money. It wasn't about power. It was about a family secret buried for decades. Someone had spent years removing people, changing records, creating fake stories, and protecting one truth. What if? Elena said slowly, what if your father wasn't the villain? Dante looked at her. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting someone wanted you to believe he was. That night, they found the hidden archive, deep beneath the Moretti estate. A place nobody knew existed, except one person. Dante entered first. The room was small, old, covered in dust. Not a room for criminals, a room for memories. Inside were boxes, photographs, letters, documents, and one recording device. Elena picked it up. Dante. He looked. A label was attached. For my son. His expression changed. They played the recording. Static filled the room. Then, an older man's voice. Dante's father. Son. Everyone became still. If you are hearing this, a pause. Then I failed. Dante closed his eyes. His father's voice continued. I know what people will tell you. They will say I betrayed you. They will say I destroyed our family. But the truth is, a long silence. I discovered the person who betrayed us. Dante opened his eyes. Elena looked at him. The recording continued. And the person responsible is someone you trust. The audio became distorted. Then one final sentence played. The person closest to you will try to finish what they started. The recording stopped. Nobody moved. Because everyone understood. The betrayal wasn't finished. It was still happening. 20 years later. Then Luca's phone rang. He answered. Listened. His face changed. What? Dante immediately noticed. What happened? Luca slowly lowered the phone. Boss? Someone accessed the family vault. Dante stood. When? 10 minutes ago. Who? Luca looked at Elena. Then Dante. The access code belonged to one person. A pause. The only person who knew your father's original security. Dante's eyes narrowed. Who? Luca swallowed. Elena Vance. The room went silent. Dante turned toward Elena. For one terrifying second, she saw it. The doubt, the suspicion, the fear of betrayal. Everything he had spent his life fighting. Elena looked at him. Dante. I didn't do this. His expression remained unreadable, but she noticed something. He didn't step away. He didn't call his guards. He didn't accuse her. Instead, he asked, Do you know why? Elena looked confused. Why what? Why I don't believe you did it. The question surprised her, because Dante Moretti trusted almost nobody. But he trusted her. Because he looked at the evidence, then back at her. You're the only person in this house who would have the intelligence to do it. A pause. And the only person I believe wouldn't. Before Elena could respond, the entire mansion shook. An explosion. Glass shattered. Alarms screamed. The lights went out. Then, every screen turned on. A familiar face appeared. Dante Moretti. But this time, he wasn't smiling. He looked afraid. Dante. His voice trembled. You need to listen carefully. A pause. Because the person you have been hunting is not the enemy. The screen flickered. Then Adrian said, the real enemy is inside the house. The feed cut, and immediately, all eyes turned toward the same direction. The hallway, where someone was standing in the darkness, watching them. The hallway remained dark. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Because everyone inside the room understood one thing. The enemy wasn't outside. The enemy was already here, standing among them. Watching, waiting, Dante slowly stepped forward. His entire body changed. The man who had been searching for answers disappeared. The Mafia Boss returned. Cold. Precise. Dangerous. Show yourself. Silence. Then, a slow clap echoed through the hallway. 1, 2, 3 times. A man stepped into the light, and Elena felt her stomach tighten, because she recognized him. Everyone did. The person standing there wasn't a stranger. It wasn't an enemy they had been chasing. It was someone who had been beside Dante for years. Someone who had protected the estate. Someone who knew every security system, every weakness, every secret. Luca. The room froze. Damn it, one of the guards whispered. Dante stared, not believing, not wanting to believe. Luca. The man's expression was calm, almost sad. I'm sorry, Dante. That sentence hurt more than any confession. Because it wasn't a threat. It sounded like regret. Elena watched Dante carefully. This was the moment. The moment where everything he feared became real. Everyone betrayed him eventually. Everyone. Why? Dante's voice was quiet. Luca looked away. Because you never asked the right questions. A dangerous silence filled the room. Dante stepped closer. Explain. Luca looked at the old photograph on the desk. You spent 20 years searching for the person who destroyed your family. A pause. But you never asked why your family was destroyed. Dante's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying, Luca looked at Elena. The Moretti family was never attacked because of power. Or money. They were attacked because of a secret. Elena felt cold. The secret my father discovered. Luca nodded. Exactly. Dante looked at him. You're working with Adrian. You're working with Adrian. Luca shook his head. No. Marco? No. Then who? Luca remained silent. And that silence was an answer. Dante understood. No. His expression changed. Impossible. Luca whispered. Your father knew. The room went quiet. He knew someone inside the family was planning everything, but he couldn't expose them. Why? Elena asked. Luca looked at her. Because the person responsible was protected by everyone. Dante's voice became colder. Who? Luca didn't answer. Instead, he walked toward the desk, placed a small object down. A key. An old key. Dante recognized it immediately. His mother's. Where did you get that? Luca looked at him. She gave it to me. Silence. My mother? Luca nodded. Before she died. Dante froze. Because that changed everything. His mother wasn't just a victim. She knew something. She was preparing something. Why didn't you tell me? The question came from Dante. Not as a boss, as a son. Luca looked down. Because your mother made me promise. What promise? To protect you. Dante laughed quietly, but there was no humor. By lying to me for 20 years? Luca closed his eyes. By keeping you alive. Before Dante could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. Multiple people, armed, approaching. Everyone turned. Luca looked toward the door. They're here. Dante immediately raised his weapon. Who? Luca looked at him. The people who have been cleaning up this secret for 20 years. The doors exploded open. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, shouting, glass shattered. The estate became a battlefield. Dante moved instantly. He grabbed Elena's arm. Stay behind me. She pulled away. No. His eyes turned toward her. Elena, I'm not useless. I know. The answer surprised her. Dante looked at her. For the first time, he didn't see an accountant. He didn't see someone who needed protection. He saw a partner. Then stay close. They moved through the chaos. Elena noticed something. The attackers weren't shooting randomly. They were searching. For what? Dante looked at her. You. Her expression changed. Me? They know you have the evidence. What evidence? Dante looked at her. The truth. They reached the hidden archive. But someone was already there, waiting. A figure stood among the boxes. An older man, calm, confident, like he had expected them. Dante stopped, because he knew him. Everyone knew him. Adrian Moretti. Alive. Again. But this time, he wasn't afraid. Dante. The room went silent. Dante raised his weapon. You lied. Adrian nodded. Yes. You betrayed me. A pause. Yes. Elena looked at him. Then why? Adrian looked at Dante. Because if I told you the truth 20 years ago, you would have died. Dante laughed bitterly. That's your excuse? No? Adrian looked toward Elena. That's my failure. Adrian reached into his coat. Everyone aimed their weapons, but he only pulled out a document. The person who killed your family. He placed it on the table. Is not your father. Not me. Not Marco. A pause. It's someone you never suspected. Dante stared. Who? Adrian looked directly at him, then said, Your mother. Silence. Nobody moved. Elena felt the entire room change. Dante's face became completely empty. My mother? Adrian nodded. Your mother discovered the truth. She made a deal. She sacrificed herself to protect you. Dante shook his head. No. Listen to me. Adrian stepped closer. The night she died, she wasn't running from an enemy. A pause. She was running from you. Before anyone could understand, a gunshot echoed. Adrian fell. Blood spread across his shirt. Everyone turned. A figure stood behind him. The real enemy. The person who had controlled everything. And when Dante saw the face, his entire world collapsed. Because the person holding the gun was the one person he never thought he would have to fear. The gunshot echoed through the hidden archive. For a moment, everything stopped. The guards, the alarms, the shouting outside, even time itself seemed to freeze. Adrian Moretti fell to the ground, and standing behind him, holding the weapon, was the last person Dante expected. The person who had been beside him for years. The person he trusted more than anyone. The person who had always claimed to protect the Moretti family. His own mother's closest friend, Isabella Romano. Dante stared. No emotion. No movement. Nothing. That was what frightened Elena the most, because she knew him now. She knew his silence, and this silence meant something inside him had broken. Why? The question came quietly. Not like a mafia boss. Like a son. Isabella lowered the gun. Her expression wasn't cruel. It was exhausted. You really don't remember? Dante stepped forward. Remember what? She looked at the old photographs. The night your family died. A pause. The night everyone lied to you. Elena stayed beside Dante. Not behind him. Beside him. Because she understood something. This wasn't a fight Dante could win with power. This was a fight he had to survive emotionally. Explain. Dante's voice was cold. Isabella looked at him. Your father wasn't innocent. Dante's eyes hardened. But he wasn't the monster everyone believed either. She placed the gun down. Your father discovered that his own organization was preparing a coup. People close to him wanted control. The money, the companies, the empire. Elena listened carefully. Everything finally connected. The missing money, the fake accounts, the betrayal. It had never been about $30 million. It had always been about destroying the person at the top. Then why did my mother die? Dante asked. Isabella looked away, because she found out who was involved. A pause. She found out people she loved were responsible. Dante's voice became quieter. Who? Isabella looked at him. Your mother didn't die because she was weak. She died because she chose you. Silence. She knew if the truth came out immediately, everyone would come after you. So she made a plan. She created a false story. She allowed everyone to believe the wrong people were responsible. Dante frowned. Why? Because the person behind everything was someone nobody would suspect. Isabella looked toward Elena. The same reason they chose her. Elena froze. What? Isabella continued. Elena Vance wasn't chosen because she found the money. She was chosen because of her father. Dante turned toward Elena. Her face went pale. Your father? Isabella nodded. He was the only person outside the family who knew the truth. He helped your mother hide the evidence. He promised to protect it. A pause. But he couldn't. Elena swallowed. What happened to him? Isabella's expression changed. He was killed because he refused to reveal where he hid it. Everything became clear. The warehouse, the photograph, the restoration business, the hidden records. Her entire life had unknowingly been connected to Dante's. Dante looked at Isabella. Who gave the order? She hesitated. Then, the same person who has been controlling everything. A pause. Your cousin. Everyone froze. A name. The final missing piece. Victor Moretti. A man who had disappeared years ago. A man everyone believed was dead. But not Elena. She looked at the documents. The financial patterns. The fake companies. The hidden accounts. Wait. Everyone turned. Victor isn't dead. Dante looked at her. How do you know? Because he never disappeared. She opened the files. He changed identities. Created companies, moved money. He wasn't hiding from the Moretti family. A pause. He was building a new one. Then, the lights flickered. A voice came through the speakers. A voice they had never heard. But everyone recognized immediately. Very impressive, Elena. The room went silent. Victor. Alive. Watching. You solved everything. A pause. Just like your father. Dante looked toward the cameras. Show yourself. Victor laughed. You sound exactly like your father. That sentence triggered something. Dante's anger returned. Where are you? Somewhere you can never reach. Elena looked around the room, then noticed something. A small camera. Hidden. She walked toward it. Victor. The voice stopped. You made one mistake. Silence. You underestimated people who pay attention. Dante looked at her. She pointed toward the camera. He's not watching us remotely. He is inside the estate system. He needs a connection. A pause. Which means he's close. Security moved instantly. Searching. Minutes passed. Then, a guard found him. Not outside. Not underground. Inside the old family wing. Victor Moretti. The man who had spent 20 years destroying Dante's life, standing in the place where it began. Dante faced him. Two men. Same blood. Different choices. You took everything from me. Victor smiled. No. I gave you everything. Dante stared. Explain. I made you stronger. I destroyed your weakness. Your family. Your trust. Your ability to love. A pause. Look at you. You became exactly what this world needed. Dante looked at him. No. Victor frowned. What? Dante stepped forward. You became the reason I was afraid to become human. Silence. The confrontation ended quickly. Not because Dante was stronger. He always had been. But because this time, he wasn't fighting alone. The evidence was recovered. The truth was revealed. The empire survived. But Dante Moretti changed. Weeks later, New York newspapers wrote different stories. The mysterious billionaire, the untouchable businessman, the man nobody understood, but they never knew the truth. They never knew the most powerful man in the city had finally found the one thing money couldn't buy: peace. Elena stood on the balcony of the Moretti estate, watching the city lights. Dante walked beside her. For once, without a suit jacket, without guards, without pretending. "You know," Elena said, "when we first met, I thought you were a dangerous man." Dante looked at her. "And now?" She smiled slightly. "Still true." He almost smiled. "That isn't comforting." "But," she looked at him, "now I know you're also a man who spent his whole life protecting everyone except himself." Dante was quiet. "Then, you changed my life." Elena looked away. "I only found some numbers." "No." He shook his head. "You found the person behind them." A pause. "Me." For years, Dante Moretti believed love was a weakness, trust was a mistake, and opening your heart was an invitation to be destroyed. Then came Elena Vance, the woman nobody noticed, the woman who cleaned up the truth everyone tried to hide, the woman who stood in front of the most feared man in New York and saw a human being, not a monster, not a mafia boss, just Dante. Months later, when people asked how the most powerful mafia boss in New York finally changed, nobody knew the answer. Some said it was because he survived betrayal. Some said it was because he defeated his enemies. They were wrong. The truth was much simpler. The man who controlled an empire was finally defeated by the one thing he never believed existed: someone who stayed.